Fantastic. Hey guys, welcome to this session, this Facebook Live event with Netready. I'm Stuart Calder. I'm VP for International Sales and Marketing at Netready. Thanks so much for joining us today. So we've had quite an interesting morning. We are sitting in this beautiful office space in our offices in Cape Town, in Century City. We had a COVID scare this morning, and most of our staff didn't come into office. So I'm sitting here with the man that I'm interviewing is Mr. Richard Sletcher. It's him and I in the office space. We are doing everything remotely. We have got stream decks going. We've got remote access of everything that's happening here. Caleb, who is our video production manager, he's sitting 10 kilometers away and he is running the full operations here. We've got earpieces in, we're listening to every word, we're being controlled by Caleb. We're having a great time here in the Netready studios. So thanks so much for joining us. We love having you here. And today we're going to be speaking about incentives and competitions.
Just did mention about this backdrop. I don't know if anybody can see the backdrop.
Let me switch to technology. Camera one, there we go. You might see here, we've got our backdrop. It's different to our normal backdrop that we have for our Netready backdrop. The Villa Beauty is one of our clients. They have just shot a whole bunch of awesome video content in our studios right here. So we've got their backdrops here. Richard, I think it looks beautiful.
Yeah, I know they've done a great job. So
I think they've done.
So they've done all of their training videos, and so this is one of the nice things about the studios. We can skin it with the branding of all of our clients. So this is just a filler skin that gets put on. And then tomorrow when they finish their video production, this will come down, and we've got another company called Autos coming in to do their video shoots, and we're going to skin it with their branding. So every client that comes in here has their own branding, which is quite cool. Yeah.
So Autos, let's put a pin in that, because we actually want to bring them up in this conversation we're having today. We're going to be speaking about incentives.
100%.
So, Mr. Richard Sletcher, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
Once again, I'm not tired of you, I promise you.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm working on it.
I have noticed one thing. We haven't got our uniform on today.
Thank the Lord.
I mean,
last week I looked like twins. I mean, really.
But I liked it. And maybe Caleb, I don't know if I mean you won't be able to comment, but I'm hoping that he's organised us those lapels, those little logos that we wanted.
Oh yes, exactly.
Because
we need it.
It'll complete our uniform. Okay. What are we talking about today? We're talking about incentives. Another big part about our MLM business. Now, let's get into this a little bit. I know that the people listening out there, why do we create incentives? You know, how do we create incentives? So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty there. So let's start with the why. Why do we create these incentives?
Okay, so incentives is one of the big drivers. Okay, so you've got 5 drivers. Your product being the key one. Everything works on the product. The product has to be compelling. Otherwise, you don't actually have a business. So your product is your big one, and of course, commissions people need to earn. Yeah. Then your other 3 is your incentives, your recognition, and your social responsibility and social activity. Those are the other 3 big drivers. Yeah. And so I kind of give every one of these a 20% of your business. So incentives is actually 20% of what drives your business. So if you leave incentives out, that's 20% of what drives your business is gone. So the number one reason for having incentives is because it's a big driver for your business. That's the core thing.
Yeah. And there are people. So we look at the 20% of your total network. These are highly competitive people. They crave something to run as a competition, so that they can beat their peers, they can beat their network members, they can chase an end goal, and they can stand up there and say, I won.
Exactly right.
I'm the man.
Exactly right. Yeah. So, and that's exactly what you're doing. You are driving the competitive people, and that's why 20% is the number, is because 20% of your people are highly competitive. Yeah. 20% of the people, if there's a competition, they want to go for it. And I mean, in my experience, when I was running AcornKids, we had competition there where the person who won this particular competition did more sales in the last couple of weeks of the competition than anybody else had done in the previous year. Wow. And much more than they'd done in the previous year. Yeah. And the reason being is that they were totally focused on just winning the competition. Wow. So they did whatever it was necessary. So the competitions tend to drive behavior. So when you set them up, obviously you want to know what behavior you're trying to drive, and then you need to make sure the competition is there to drive the competitive people so that that behavior is realized in the business.
Yeah. So that comes down to strategy. There needs to be intent for creating these competitions. I remember, I love the story you told me about how these competitions really drive sales within the business. We had the Central African clients, and I mean, tell us that story. It was
okay. So
unbelievable.
We had a client who was operating in Central Africa,
yeah,
and he ran an incentive, and it was a fully automated incentive because these incentives have got to be automated.
Yeah.
So we'll discuss that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But in the last week of his incentives, they were signing up 1,500 people a day. Now, what was incredible is that the average buy-in on that particular company's business was $1,500.
Yeah, wow.
So if you think that you're signing up 1,500 people a day at $1,500 buy-in for 7 days, you can imagine the kind of turnover these guys did.
Yeah.
So wow. I can honestly tell you, hand on heart, they were happy with the incentive.
I can imagine. I would be.
Exactly. You know, so incentive does drive behavior and it drives sales. You've obviously got to structure it right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you give the wrong people the prizes. So it's got to be structured right. But it really drives sales like very few other things do, especially amongst your competitive network.
People. Yeah. Okay, and then how do we? So we're going into how we create these incentives. So we've mentioned the why. It's now how. So how do we set the strategy in place in which to create this incentive? Is it things like, it obviously has to be achievable. So how do we go about doing that? What are the various things we have to consider?
Well, the first thing is I don't like incentives where it's a winner take all.
Okay.
Okay, so I like to set a bar.
Yeah. And
everybody who gets above the bar, we call it a hit it and get it type campaign. So everybody who goes above the bar will be part of the business. And as the company's turnover grows due to the incentive, you want to take more and more people in. So the idea is to take as many people as humanly possible on the incentive. So that's the first thing. When you're coming to planning it, there needs to be some mechanism that if the company's turnover goes up, more people come in. But if the company's turnover doesn't go up, obviously you don't want to be at risk of going bankrupt because you're putting all this money into incentives, then obviously fewer people go. So it needs to be directly tied to the volume of turnover you do. Then you need to have something that's highly achievable. But not achievable in terms of I need to do X, Y, and Z to actually get that prize. Achievable in terms of if we run this incentive over 3 months, the turnover of the company is going to allow us to take 100 people on this particular incentive.
Okay.
So that kind of achievable. So you need to look at the cost of the incentive, the turnover of the company, and you need to say, well, look, we want to take between 50 and 100 people. So what should the cost be? If the company is doing $1 million a month, and let's say I'm just using this randomly because it's easy to divide by, but let's say you're putting 10% aside for incentives. That means you've got $100,000 a month. Dollars. If you did that over a 3-month period, you've got $300,000.
Sure.
Okay. So now if your incentive costs $1,000 to take the people to some destination, then of course 300 people can go. So the idea is that the turnover determines how many people can go, and it must be dynamic. So on the first day of the incentive, you might have 1 winner. By the end of the first month, you might have 20 winners. By the end of the second month, you might have 80 winners. And so people are added into the incentive all the way along the line. And then at the end of the incentive, you say, okay, there's our winner pool. We've got 300 people or whatever it is that we're taking along, and off we go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I'm setting up an incentive, that's the criteria I use, is how can I get the most people to win the incentive? So that's really kind of, from my perspective, what we do in our planning.
Okay. So that's that pooled amount. I mean, we can project how many people we can send based on the cost of that person and the turnover of the business. But if our business starts skyrocketing, now we're going to play into the system again, and having a system in place that can automatically track the performance of the business in terms of turnover, and then start adding more people, potential winners, into the pot so that they can go on this incentive.
Exactly.
We'll go into what an automated system needs. You have to have an automated system, whoever that is, in place in order to track that.
Absolutely.
and be able to control it, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who are we sending on these incentives? Do we structure this so that incentive is for our senior or top management? And then do we structure another incentive that is for that of, an IBO, someone that's just into the business, an independent business owner? They don't have a team yet. They maybe have 1 or 2 customers, but we still want to create an incentive for them.
Yeah.
Do we structure? Do we do 2? Do we do 1? How do we?
So it depends on where you are in the overall growth of your business.
Yeah.
So if you are, for example, if you've just started out and you're 3, 5, 6 months old, then obviously you just do a compensation, an incentive for everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
If you've got a mature business, and let's say you got 50,000 active members, then you can't really incentivize your top leadership in the same way as you incentivize your IBOs and your guys, and let's call it your foot soldiers. So you have to then create multiple incentives or multiple layers of incentive. So let's say you are allocating 5%. Generally, the allocation is 5%.
Okay.
So let's say you're allocating 5%. You might put 1% to your top leadership, your diamonds, whatever you call your top leadership. Then you might have 2% to your middle tier team leaders, your golds and your platinums and your rubies and emeralds, etc. And then you might have 3% to your IBOs and the guys who are actually doing the work right at the bottom of the network.
Yeah.
So you would split it up, and then each tier would have different types of goals, because a top team leader, you can't say to him, well, you need to go and find out 5 people and help them sell some product, because at the point where they are, they're trying to grow big teams.
Yeah.
So you would rather talk to them about team growth and percentage growth in their team. Whereas somebody who's just joined the business, you would talk to them about how many personal sales they have, how many people they can recruit, how much personal sales they can get their people to do, how they help their people to grow the business. But let's just talk for a moment let's say your company, you're quite young, you're a year old, you're just getting out of the blocks. One of the key things you want to do with this incentive is you want to say, listen, it needs to be a level playing field.
Okay.
So a guy who joined a year ago must have just the same amount of chance as a guy who joined yesterday. So when we launch the incentive, everybody needs to be on a 100% level playing field, so that you don't have a situation where some guy who's got 10,000 people in his network can just leverage those 10,000 people and win the trip.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that doesn't happen. So traditionally what we would say is that you've got your competition. You and your team count down to, say, 3 levels. I'm just giving you an example now.
Yep.
So if you sign up somebody and they sign up somebody and they sign up somebody, they sign up, so 3 levels deep, that would count. But only people who sign up after the start of the competition. So if the competition starts on the 1st of January, it's only people who sign up from the 1st of January.
Okay, will be eligible.
Will count towards your incentive.
Yes.
That means that everybody, absolutely everybody in the entire network is in the same place. Because if you've got 10,000 people, they don't count.
Oh, wow.
Because only a person who signs up at the start will count towards you. And only sales that you make here. So if you've got a customer who's buying online from you, doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's only customers who sign up on the system now that count towards you. So your personal purchases during, let's say you ran a 3-month cycle, and we need to talk about that as well. How do you cycle these things? But let's say you ran a 3-month cycle, January, February, March, for example. Then your personal purchases in January, February, March would count for you. The purchases of the salespeople you bring in and the people they bring in down to 3 levels, for example, for January, February, March would count. Any sales or customers that joined before that don't count. Any sales or customers that join after that don't count.
Okay.
So that is a completely level playing field, because a new person and an existing person both have to go out and find people. They both got to sign them up. They've got to teach them how to sell the product. They've got to get them selling the product. Another thing that I like to do, and this is generally in the rules, is I like to say to the guys, listen, only X number of points, personal points, you and your customers count for you.
Okay.
So you can't go out and buy the competition. You can't come and spend $10,000, buy a whole lot of stock, think, well, I'll sell that down the road, and therefore I've just suddenly got X number of points, I won the competition. Because you have a limit to how many points you can contribute to your success. So that normally you try and limit the risk of somebody just buying it. That's what you don't want that.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do with this incentive is drive people to do better business, to create a bigger team, to drive sales that are going to last you for an extended period of time. So you don't want them just buying it. And then you say to them, okay, you can get points from the people you bring on board up to 3 levels deep, but only up to the amount that you personally do. So if you do 100 points, you can only harvest 100 points from your people. If you do 1,000 points, you can only harvest 1,000 points from your people. So that means you've got to get everybody selling in order to actually up the game for yourself, to get yourself into a position to win the competition. So you've got to be really careful. It's very subtle how you do this, but you've got to be super careful about how you put these rules in place so that you don't land up with a guy getting a free ride on the back of one of his people. You don't land up with a guy just buying the incentive and finished. You don't land up with a guy getting a free ride based on the work he's done in the past, because the incentive is supposed to drive new work. So you've got to make sure that all of this stuff is taken into account very carefully when you actually put your incentives together. You know.
So those free ride elements, those are key takeouts for me, and especially the one that says to us, you cannot you cannot rest on or rely on what you've done in the past. It is a focused 3 months, and in that time, every single person is going to try work harder than the next. To try and build a team and make those sales. And generate those points.
100%.
So I love that it's a clean, it's a clean cut, start and finish date of those 90 days or that 3 months.
Yeah, and I think now's a good time to talk about that. What I found, because when I ran AcornKids, our first incentive that we ran went over a year. And what I discovered...
Oh, wow.
So we put this year, so we were taking everybody away to an exotic island. And so, you know, we thought, well, we need a year to actually build up the number of winners. And so we ran it over a year. What we discovered is that everybody only started working in the last 3 months. So everything went along, and then in the last 3 months, suddenly everybody woke up and started pushing. So the next time we did this, we decided, obviously, don't do it over a year. Everybody pushed for 3 months. Let's make it 3 months. Sessions, and that worked really, really well. So what we did is we started in January. We had our annual gala evening. This is our big gala event. Friday night we did the training for our top leadership. We did a Saturday training session, all day Saturday training session for our sort of next tier people. Then Saturday evening we had our big gala event where we gave away prizes and launched new products and a whole lot of stuff there. So that was a really big deal. And then we launched our incentive there, and the incentive went February, March, April. So it was a 3-month incentive, and you know, there was a whole strategy around how we did it, but it was similar to what I was saying now, which is you couldn't have more than a certain amount of points count. You could only contribute a certain amount of points yourself. You had to do a certain number of points to harvest points from your network, etc. It's only people who signed up during the times signed up, and then we let it go. And of course, everybody could win that incentive. And we ran it for 3 months, and we found that the guys pushed like crazy. Now, we automated the whole thing, and we need to talk about that just now. And we had reports that showed everybody where they were. End of the 3 months, so February, March, April, end of April, incentive shut off. There were some rules around returned products. So, for example, if a person, which we had one person do this, they bought a whole lot of product right at the end of the incentive and then brought it back the following month. I said to them, well, you can't do that. And the nice thing about it is we built the rules in that, and the system was automated to say, okay, listen, all product that comes back up to 30 days after the end of the incentive automatically gets peeled out. And those people who had won on the basis of that got kicked out, and other people were actually put into the incentive who'd actually won it on merit.
So you set those rules in. You actually preempt these tricks that the network could potentially do.
You cannot believe how these guys, they look for every possible loophole, every cheap shot, every quick backdoor way to get, obviously. I mean, there's a hell of a prize on the line, and they look at how they can actually make that happen.
Well, of course, because this incentive is so attractive, I'm going to look at all the ways in which I can do it. Obviously, everything is above board, but there's little loopholes that people identify because people are clever.
Exactly. And they're not doing anything illegal or unethical or immoral. You put the rules out there and they're leveraging your rules.
There you go.
You know, you didn't tell them they can't buy a lot of stock and bring it back. You know, if you didn't want them to do that, you should have said something. You know, but of course that comes with experience. You run a few incentives and you start seeing where the guys are trying to pull a fast one. So obviously that's key. Now, what we did is, so February, March, April, we then had a national convention in May. So towards the end of May, we had our national convention, and there we announced the people who had won the first 3 months. And we handed out bags and towels and logos and you name it, you know, all of the things that they were going to need, because we were doing it to Mauritius. We had this trip to Mauritius. Because that was a 3 months push. But we said to everybody, listen, this was so successful, we're going to do this for another 3 months. But the people who won in the first 3 months can't enter the second one. Their job is to see how many of their people they can take with them on the second incentive. Because they don't really want it. They can't win 2 tickets. So then June, July, and August, we had another big push. But now the focus of everybody, same deal, they were trying to go, but their upline was trying to see how many of their people they could take along for the ride. And so the focus wasn't on me going. The focus is on how do I help my people to go. And so that was the next big push. So June, July, August, we did that. Then in September, we had another national convention. We did these things 3 times a year. And we got everybody together and we dished out prizes for the people who'd won in that session, in that 3-month session. And we gave them their tickets and their towels and all of it. And then that was in September. And then we did the same thing again. We said to them, okay, guys, everybody who's joined up in the first session, who won in the first 3 months, and the second 3 months, they can't enter, but their job is to see how many people they can take with them in the third session. And then we said to everybody, right, we're running this swim one more time, and we gave them same rules, but everybody who was already on the trip, their goal was to help their people then get onto the trip. And so for the next 3 months, which was October, November, December, we pushed like crazy for these people to bring their people along. And then January is the gala evening, our big annual gala event. And then May, we went away on the trip. And by then, you've had 3 groups of people who have pushed hard. So during the year, the incentive has driven people very hard in 3 batches. And now you get to January, you announce the date, you book the venue, and then you take all of these people away to Mauritius. And obviously amazing to take a group of people away like that. I mean, some of the people that we took had never eaten in a restaurant in their life. Never eaten in a restaurant. They'd never lived in stayed in a hotel.
Been on a plane.
They'd never been on an aeroplane. They'd never been on a train. I mean, these people, some of them just had never had any experiences outside of a very small, isolated space. And here we are. We flew them down to we flew them to Joburg. Then from Joburg, we flew them to Mauritius. Put them up in a hotel called the La Canoniere. Had this incredible 7 days of absolute blast. Did a whole lot of training with them. Flew them back. And of course, those people then became the story that we told.
Lovely.
So we'd launched our next incentive in January at the gala evening. And in May, we were able to bring back video footage of what we'd done and again drive. When we then extended the following year's incentive, we were able to show the videos of what we'd done, and that just absolutely drove everybody ballistic. And so once you've done it once, you've got the story that you can tell, and you can show how much fun you had and make it extremely desirable to have people along there.
Would you recommend that, so you've run these three different phases of this incentive. Would you recommend that it is the same incentive, the same competition and prize? Or so you would never say run a Le Canoniere Mauritius trip, run a Sun City trip, okay. So
you want to take as many people as possible. You want to do it once a year. So you don't want to do it. If you go too often, you take too few people. And when you go, you want to take a lot of people. As you know, one of our clients has booked was booking the entire MSC Musica, the entire ship.
The ship,
It's taking 3,000 people on an incentive trip. Now, the reason he can do it is by booking the whole ship. He brings the cost of the per person cost right down. So now instead of the trip costing, say, $1,000, it's now costing $200 because he's booking the whole ship out.
Yeah.
And so now he can suddenly go and he can take 3,000 people, where he might have only had 800 people before, or 600 people, he can now take 3,000.
Wow.
So there are ways of making this thing exceptional. Now imagine you go on a holiday on a ship with 3,000 people from your company, from your organization, and everybody there is, they, first of all, understand these are all positive people, because negative people don't win competitions.
Yes.
They're all enthusiastic and excited people because, damn it, they just want a free competition. They're all on the ship together, knowing that everybody around them is from the same company.
Wow.
So they
That's
connect
powerful.
with everybody.
Yeah.
So people are just connecting with each other. They have a blast. The company obviously organizes functions, but the big thing is they've got 3,000 people that they can train. And so they have training sessions. They teach the guys about their business. I mean, they really, you utilize that time to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And you just teach and train and focus those guys.
Yeah.
You have functions together. You have competitions together. You have team building exercises together. If you plan this thing properly, which you need to do, you can make this into the most epic team building exercise in the history of team building exercises.
Yeah.
And when those 3,000 people come back to the company to start working, come back to the country, they are fired up. Now I've got another incentive that they're entering.
Yes.
They really want to be on that incentive. And so they are focused, they're fired up. You can absolutely get them to a point where they literally hit the ground running.
So, okay, now, yes, we do want to be training these people, and that's a big part of it. They also want to have the best time possible. So in this itinerary, we build in this training, we build in these functions, and we build in this leisure time that they can enjoy, so that they can enjoy every moment of it and then go home and just be complete ambassadors for this incentive campaign.
Absolutely.
But training 3,000 people in a focused session for 4 days straight. These are like-minded people that want to do as well as they can do, having their own interests at heart, but also the company's, and growing their teams. So you're bouncing ideas off one another, and there's guest speakers coming in, motivating these guys. Tips and techniques are being communicated to them. It is such an ideal situation. Not only are you taking these people away and they're having a great time because they've earned it, but also you have this time to train them.
And you know what? They want to be trained.
Yeah.
It's not like they're sitting there thinking, oh no, damn it, I'm going to be trained now.
Yeah.
They want to be trained.
Yeah.
They want to do incredibly well. They want to make their business fly.
Yeah.
So they're highly focused on what you're wanting to teach them, and you need to be obviously prepared. Don't go there half-heartedly or half-assed about it. You need to be very focused and prepared, because you have a golden opportunity. These people want to be trained. They are dying to hear from you. They're dying to hear what you have to say. They're dying to learn new tricks and tips on how to do their business better. And so you got this golden opportunity. You need to absolutely be focused on making it happen with them.
I love that.
You know, because that's, I mean, it's part of the fun of being there.
Yeah. So, for example, this client of ours that's hired the MFC Musica, 3,000 people. Are those purely network members, or do they bring partners? How does that work?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So look, I recommend highly that you don't allow partners.
Okay.
So some of the rules I would put in place is, number one, no partners, because what you want to do is you're trying to do a team building exercise.
Yeah.
And if I have my partner on this trip, guaranteed I'm focused on my partner, and we're off doing things together.
Yeah.
So if my partner's not there, then I'm focused on the team.
Yeah.
So the first thing is absolutely no partners. You can't.
Yeah, sorry. If I think of that, I think if I had to go travel somewhere with my partner, the focus would be on sightseeing.
Exactly.
But it would also be on that of spending time and engaging with my partner. I wouldn't be talking to anyone else.
No, of course not.
But if I went alone and I was traveling alone, I'd go see all the sites, and I'd interact, and I'd get engaged, and I'd make new friends, and I'd form new relationships with people I wouldn't have done if I had my partner there.
And look, normally what happens is that you've got your leadership there and you've got part of your team there. So you're part of a team, and the leadership, your upline, whoever's with you on that, you become part of this group. And what normally happens on these trips is they get the groups competing against each other.
Cool. Okay.
They have curling matches, and they have slip and slide races, and, you know, whatever.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
do all sorts of fun things, which also create some spirit amongst them. And again, if your partner's there, you know, they don't fit into that environment unless you're actually doing the business with your partner.
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember with one of my clients, I said to them, "Are you going to allow partners to come with?" He said, "Yes." So I said, "How are you going to do that?" He said, "Well, I'm going to give them an application form and show them how they can qualify to be there." And so, yes,
Nice.
you can bring your partner along, but the partner has to qualify to be there. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a case of you know, just taking the partner along. The other thing is you can't cash it out.
Yes.
So if you can't make
Okay.
it, too bad.
Yeah.
You don't go. You can't give it to somebody else. You can't say, "I can't make it, I'm giving it to my mom." Well, too bad. We don't want your mom along, we want you along. So you actually have to come yourself. So there's those kind of things you just got to think through as well when you're putting these incentives together. Not to allow the guys to do something crazy like give their ticket away or try and cash their ticket out for money. No, this is an incentive. We're not trying to give you a handout. We're taking you as a group. It's a team building exercise. It's a business incentive where
Yeah.
we are going to help you grow your business.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's got to be focused on the business. This is not a reward that you can go and sit and relax on the beach and we don't see you for 5 days. You have to be at the training sessions. You have to be in the places where we want you to be. You have to enter into the competitions that we're putting you in and partake.
Yeah.
Because team building exercise. You know, if you're going to go off on your own, we don't like that. Obviously, we don't want that. So that's why it's very focused on team. Your team leaders are there. They're kind of corralling you and getting you involved in it. And it needs to be a fun group exercise.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you set the intention from the beginning.
Yeah.
You announce the prize, the incentive. You announce the rules, and you announce what we're expecting of our winners when they come in.
Yeah.
We actually want to have a focus session with you so that we can help guide you through developing yourselves as one of our network members.
But you obviously sell it to them as a huge positive.
Sure.
So you don't sell it to them as like we
training.
expect this to you.
Yeah.
You say what's going to be epic is that we're going to be having these top trainers there. We've got this top sales trainer. We've got this top recruiter trainer.
Amazing.
We're going to have this leader is going to be doing these sessions here.
Yeah.
You know, and so you actually build them up so that the expectation is just positive.
Yeah.
When you come back, guys, we're going to be able to kick your businesses into orbit because you're going to come back with so much information.
Yeah.
What we also like to do in those sessions is we like to record those sessions.
Yes.
So generally, you would have a video crew along with you
Yeah.
who would come and record those sessions.
Yeah.
And those sessions then would be uploaded onto the internet. When you get back, all of that training becomes available to everybody else.
Yeah.
So
Lovely.
so it's a real opportunity for you to record this training in a very controlled environment and then to put it onto YouTube, onto whatever platform you're using for your e-learning, and to actually expose the rest of your network to it. That way, it's a basic double whammy.
Yeah.
You know, you have the time with these guys, and then the whole team gets to share in that training.
But it's a promotion of the training, but it's also the promotion of this incentive.
Exactly.
If I'm looking at a training video and I'm seeing 100 people in a room getting trained by these top people,
Exactly.
I want to be on that next incentive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're booking out, take for example this client of ours, booking out an
MSC.
entire ship.
Yeah.
You've got the money. I mean, there's like you've got money to then go and hire top trainers to come along on the trip.
Yeah.
You've got the money to hire videographers because you want to have an epic video of this whole thing at the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got the money to do those things. And so you need to definitely take part of your budget and allocate it to that, because you don't want this thing to be an isolated event that just disappears after you're finished.
Yeah.
You want it to be an event that lives on through the training, through the motivation, through the additional sales that you get, through the videos you've created.
Yeah.
You know, through the story you've generated out of this whole thing. That needs to live on afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah.
Having this event, this big incentive, just before you release the next one. I mean, the timing is perfect, because if I look at what's happening with social media these days, you've got 3,000 people on a boat. They have Wi-Fi or connection. They are going to be sharing, they are going to be live streaming just like this. They are going to be doing all of those things. They're going to be posting on social media and Facebook and TikTok and all of these social media channels. and who's going to be watching.
Exactly.
The rest of the network and anyone else that's interested in getting involved in the business.
Exactly. Exactly. How important is that? So this business is not about, you know, banging on the doors of your family and trying to squeeze money out of them. This business is about this unbelievable extravaganza that you went on. You know, it changes the palette of the business for anybody who's on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And of course, with social media, those people are going to be seeing, your network of friends are going to be seeing what you're posting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you won this trip, and you can tell them how you won it, etc. And what is a very important part of this is when you're doing the training, part of that training should absolutely be, how do you maximize the impact of what has just happened to you?
Yeah. Wow.
Via Facebook, via Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of those things, YouTube.
Yeah.
So you should be training your people so that they maximize this, so that when they get back, if you've got 3,000 people and each of them do 10 posts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and 30,000 posts will make a difference to your business because it's out there. You know, the visibility of your company just goes through the roof that way.
Wow.
You know?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Going back to the setup of these incentives. Now, in the, let's call it the winner's circle, those that qualify to come on this incentive, when they get into the winner's circle, they've achieved the right points, they've made the right sales, they've recruited the right amount of people, whatever you set that standard to be. Now, is it when you win the prize? Do you just, is it a uniform prize that everyone wins? Or can we stage that prize and we can say one person wins this and then we scale it up?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you know, this is my favorite part of this whole thing.
I've set you up for this
one. Led me down the path there, good and solid. Okay, so the bottom line is that what we found, and I mean, this all comes from experience.
Yeah.
What we found when we were running our competitions is that when the people got into the winner's circle, if they were high enough up, they just stopped working because they knew they'd made it. Nobody was going to catch them or bump them out, and that was it. They threw their hands up, don't have to work anymore. And that's the last thing you want from your top people. You want your top people, you want to be driving them right until the last day. So I'm just going to use a small number. Let's say you got 10 winners.
Okay.
Okay. What you want to do is you want to say the person who's in the first place, let's say we're doing a trip to Mauritius. They're going to fly in the business class. They're going to get $1,000 spending money. They're going to be staying in the executive suites. They're getting free massages and back rubs, whatever. So they've got an incredible prize. The person who's in 10th position, we're taking them with, but we're strapping them to the wing of the airplane. When we get there, they're on the beach in a tent. And if they want to go to the toilet, here's a shovel. Okay?
Exactly.
So the experience between the person in the first place and the person in the last place must be completely different. And everybody in between. There must be a grade of wherever you are in the position, you get a different kind of prize.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
So we grade the prizes from an exceptional prize to like, okay, you're coming with us, basically.
Yeah.
You get no spending money. You're going to stay in like the worst room in the place. You know, you're sharing with somebody, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
However we do this, okay? Then what you do is you have to motivate these people through the entire process. Now, that's where we're going to talk about automation.
Yeah.
You cannot run these incentives without a fully automated process. If you are relying on somebody to draw reports and to try and send out emails and messages to tell people where they are, you can forget about it. I've seen numerous companies try to do that. It's a disaster. So what my recommendation is that you don't try and do it manually. If you've got to do it manually, don't do it at all. You need to automate the process end to end. So the way you'd automate it, example, everybody, the top 10 people, in this case, there's only 10, but if it was 100, it would be the top 100. If it's 1,000, top 1,000.
Yeah.
But the top people get an email. Okay, the guy at the top, hey, you're in first place. You're getting the $1,000 spending money in the executive suites. We're so excited for you. But I'm just telling you that Paul is 25 points away from knocking you out of first place.
Yeah.
And if you don't get going, he's the one going to walk away with the $1,000 spending money.
Yeah.
Okay? But it then sends Paul an email, say, hey, listen, Stuart is only 30 points ahead of you. If you don't get going, he's going to be taking the $1,000 spending money. You can go and get it. You only need 30 points.
Yeah.
So you can see that sets up competition. And you do that to everybody in the entire team. You tell them where they are. how close they are to losing their position, how close they are to the next position. And every Monday, this email / SMS / whatever goes out to everybody to tell them where they are and to tell them how close they are. I mean, the guy in the 10th position, you say to him, hey, listen, you're coming with us at the moment, but I want to just tell you that Fred only needs 5 points to knock you completely out of the incentive and to leave you at home, and he'll be taking your place. But it tells Fred, hey, listen, Fred, you only need 5 points to come with us to Hawaii or to Mauritius or wherever we're going.
Yeah.
So you can automate those processes. Every Monday, you can send out an email to tell everybody what the standings are. So what we did with one of our competitions, this is the one where the guys were signing up 1,500 people a day.
Yeah.
During the first 3 months, they got a weekly email. Then in the last week, the top sort of, I think, 200 people, whatever it was, I can't remember the exact number, but the top 200 people got a daily email. Then in the last day, the top sort of 100 people got an email every hour, an SMS as well, to say 5 points away from losing your position. Go.
Yeah. Come on.
Okay. Then at 5:00 p.m., when the company was about to close, we send out an email saying things are going so chaotic, we're staying open until midnight. And between 5:00 and midnight, there was a flood of paid orders. People were just, the orders literally flooded in. They thought they were done, and at 5:00, so between 5:00 and midnight, we did more orders in that day than we'd done the previous day in total. So the issue is that as we drove this harder and harder as we got towards the end, fully automated. We also had a leaderboard. So you could at any time of the day or night go into the back office, and there was a leaderboard that showed you how many points you have, where you were in the standings, what you needed to do to get the next prize, what prize you were getting at this point in time. And again, the system needs to be automated. If you're in 5th position, it needs to say to you, in 5th position, you get this prize. If you go to 4th position, you're going to get that prize. If you drop down to 6th position, you're going to get this other prize. That all needs to be automated. You know? And then as you're going along, you're looking at your standings. Then in your downline tree, your leadership needs to be able to look at everybody in their tree and see exactly who is where in the incentive. So they can look at their tree, and they must be able to get a snapshot of seeing where their guys are. This guy's in 5th place, this guy's in 10th place, this guy's in 7th place, this guy's in 56th place. I need to help him. You know,
because if you can't measure, you can't monitor.
If you can't measure, you can't manage.
So
if you can't measure, you can't manage. And how do you drive your people if you don't know where they are? So everybody needs to know where everybody is and how close they are to losing or winning at all the time. And then as people are coming in, you obviously need to celebrate them as they come into the network. So the guys just come in, you need to say to them, hey, listen, you're in, congratulations. You know, that there needs to be a celebration around that. So that for me, that whole automated process is like super important. Because if it's not automated, you can forget about it. You don't drive the guys. You know, they need to know where they are because it's a competition. It's a running race. You know, if they don't know where they are in the race, very difficult to push. That's why, I mean, you know, from your sports days, when you wanted to run a really good time, you had somebody who paced you.
Of course. And
so you would chase that pacer, and the guy in front of you, you try and hang on to him for dear life. And the guy behind you, you don't want him to pass you. And so you need to create that same sense of urgency in the network so that everybody's pushing. The entire winning team needs to be pushing for position, jockeying for position all the way.
I love that. I love that analogy because it's almost as you're running this race, which is the competition, this leaderboard. So you glance back and see the guy's 5 paces behind you. And there's a guy 2 paces behind him. And there's a guy 1 pace behind you. You know what you have to do in order to take that next position or fall back. And I really love, Richard, is that once someone gets into this winner's circle, they are still then motivated to continue making those sales, bringing on their people, so they can work their way up the ranks to get a better incentive, a better experience within this place. I absolutely love it.
You know, and if you do this right, hey? Stuart, if you do this right, this absolutely drives your business. You know, we're already seeing that one of our clients, this one that's booking the whole of the ship out, his turnover this month is already 2.5 times what it was last month. 2.5 times.
Wow.
That is insane. That is absolutely insane. And it's just because these guys are driving to be in this incentive.
Yeah.
You know? It's kind of coming to the end here.
Yeah, I've got one more question for
Go
you.
for it.
Okay. These incentives become expensive. Okay, I know they're expensive, but with our projections and how many network members we have, we can control that. But the actual purchasing of the trip to Mauritius and La Canonia. Now, Netready has a number of third-party, and this is not a sales pitch, this is what we offer our clients, that I just want to speak a little bit more on one of our clients is in the travel industry offering these packages.
Yes.
So, I mean, do you want to take it over from here? Just how that happens?
Yeah. So we approached them. They specialize in large scale, and I mean large scale incentive travel. So that's what they do. They're a huge travel agency, and they specialize globally in large scale incentive travel. So we approached them and said to them, look, we would like to offer our clients this kind of option, and we've negotiated crazy deals with them.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is that our clients can go to them because they're Netready clients. They're going to get special preferential rates for whatever travel incentives they want to do. So that I think that's a big plus for our clients.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, Caleb, have we got any comments on Facebook? Okay. Share your screen. Share it away. Technology.
Oh, this is really weird. That Caleb is sitting at the other end of Cape Town, actually working with us on this. It's crazy.
Okay, let's just see.
And I see you pushing his buttons.
Exactly. Let's see if we can get it up. Here we go. Over here. We've got a question from Neil. Such valuable information. Thanks, guys. Experience is so valuable. Thank you for passing your knowledge on to the rest of us. Neil, where are you?
It's over there.
Let's go over there.
Okay.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for listening. Okay, we've got another comment here from Benny. Can one incorporate the 90-day game plan into an incentive strategy that is being advocated by many network marketers, such as Eric Warr?
So yeah, look, there's a lot of different companies out there that do all sorts of different incentive strategies.
Yeah.
Okay. My kind of experience with them is that you want to do it in 3-month cycles, because we found that people can keep a 3-month attention span with very little effort. And you want to do it over three sort of sessions, because you want to have a gap in between it. You don't want them running just one into another.
Yeah.
You also don't want them to know that you're going to have another bite at the cherry, because then they think, okay, well, I'll leave it and do it next time. So there's a lot of psychology involved in how this gets set up. So, you know, there are other ways to do it, but we found this to be extremely effective. This kind of, for me, is one of the most effective ways that we found to actually run these incentives, and it's worked for us. It works very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Benny. Thanks for the question.
Just another thing, a number of companies do incentives where they give away laptops and they give away cell phones and they give away airtime. To be quite honest with you, we found that to be ineffective. You know, you want to have a story, because the idea is not to give away your money. The idea is to get your people together, to train them, to motivate them, to get them excited, to create an incredible story that you can tell to the future generations, so to say. So we are not at all for giving away small prizes, that kind of thing. We are all for getting together with your team and doing something amazing.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. We've got one more question. So we got Tilo saying this sounds fantastic. Tilo, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Then we've got another one that says...
He's just making sure that we're actually pitching his company.
Well, there, exactly. We've got a last one that says pricing versus incentives. How does one keep competitive?
Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean by that, but let me say, what you do is, as part of your compensation plan strategy, you put 5% of the company's commissionable turnover into a pot. Okay, so that you put away from day one, you put it into a separate account, and it goes there, gets interest, makes babies, and that's where it sits. So when you run the incentive, you run the incentive on that 5% that you've allocated as part of your compensation plan. So it's been allocated. So at the end of the 3-month cycle, the money in the pot is the money in the pot. If you're doing $1 million a month, you got 5% of that, which is $50,000 a month. You do it over 3 months, you got $150,000. And your cost of your getaway, your incentive, is what it costs. So if you've negotiated, say, $1,000 for a trip to Mauritius, whatever it is, then that's the cost. And the one divides into another. That's how many people you take. Now, the system should automate that process. You shouldn't have to worry about it. It should be adding people into the leaderboard automatically.
Yeah.
But the cost is no longer a concern now. The turnover is everything. So the business needs to be growing. You need to be driving your sales. You need to be increasing your turnover, because that is actually what gets everybody excited, and that's what covers the cost. So this is a function, completely a function of a percentage of turnover that is actually designed into your compensation plan from day one.
Yeah. I mean, automation is complete key here. We need to set up the incentive, and then we need to build all the rules and the restrictions, the roles and responsibilities into that plan, and then just let this, and the communication is huge. This autoresponder engine.
And you know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Somebody's buzzing our front door, and there's absolutely no one in the company to do this. Are there any more questions
I hope it's
here?
not a client of ours. I think that is it. Yeah, that is it. Richard, thank you very much for your time. I loved speaking about incentives. It's so insightful. There's so many intricacies involved here.
Yes, we could talk another 5 hours on this, hey?
And I'd love to do that. But let's focus next week's attention. I'll announce it on Facebook so that everyone knows what's going on next week. But I've really enjoyed this time, so thank you very much.
Absolutely awesome. Thanks, Estelle.